There's a good reason why people close their curtains at night in the Appalachian Mountains. There are things in those woods that are terrifying. And one of those things happened to be the Appalachian Wendigo. Now, there was this man named Jim. Jim decided one day that he was going to sell everything he had and buy some acreage of land in the Appalachian Mountains and start this homestead. So Jim finds this good piece of land and he moves there, builds a cabin and several structures. And for a year, his life was amazing. He said one day, though, he gets a knock on his cabin door. And he said he opens the door. On the other side of the door was this older gentleman. And he said the gentleman started speaking. He said, "Hey, my name is Fox. I live not too far from here, and I wanted to check on you because I know you're all alone out here, and things can happen to people who are alone in the woods." And Jim was kind of like, why is this guy saying all this and stuff? So he said the guy continued to talk to him, but all he could think about was the fact that this guy, Fox, looked exactly like his father, who had passed away when he was a young boy. And he said it was just very, very eerie. It was like talking to his father. So he said, finally, the guy said, "You be safe out here. I'll see you later." And he said the way he said it was kind of creepy. So he said, this guy, Fox, he just walked away and took off into the woods and he never seen him again. A couple months after this, he said, one night he was asleep in his bedroom and he awakes to this sound of scratching. And he said the scratching sounds were coming from his window. And he said when he looked over in the direction towards his window, he sees the shadow appear. And it's almost in the shape of a person. And he said the shadow just moved across the wall, all the way around him to the other side of his bed. And he said the next thing he knows, something was holding him down. He could not move. And he was panicking and freaking out. And then he said, all of a sudden, it was gone. And he got up and he said, that must have just been a really crazy dream. So he said, this kept happening to him. He kept having this, what he thought at the time was a dream. Well, one day he said he was out on his land setting up some traps. And he said he happened to notice in the snow there was all of this weird movement. And he said, "What is that in the snow?" So he goes a little closer, he grabs a tree branch, and he moves the snow over. And he said, out popped several rats. And he said that's when he realized these rats were eating a deer carcass. And he said it was just so sickening that he had to start vomiting. And he said as he was bent over vomiting into the snow, he looks up and there is the guy Fox. And he said the guy was just standing there staring at him. And he's like, "Hey, what are you doing out here on my property?" And he said Fox looked at him and said, "You seen the deer?" And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "You see, a lot of weird things happen in these woods." And then he said he turned and just walked away. So he said, that was like a really weird encounter. Like, did he have something to do with that deer or whatever? So he said, next couple of days, he really, really kept having these nightmares where he would see this shadowy thing in his room. And then he said, this one particular night, he was sitting by the fireplace and he was just contemplating life. And he said, all of a sudden, the next thing he knows, he just stood up. He started walking towards the door. He opened the front door of the cabin and he starts walking out into the woods. And he said it was weird. It was like he knew what he was doing, but he couldn't control it. And something was just drawing him into the woods deeper and deeper. So he said finally he stops and he's just surrounded by trees. It's completely dark. And he said the next thing he knows, he hears his father's voice say, "Son, come here, it's your father." And he said, out of the shadows steps that guy, Fox, again. And he said, "It's me. I'm your father. Come here. Come give your father a hug." And Jim's just kind of like, "No, you're not my father. My father's not here anymore." And he's like, "No, I am your father. Like, I've been here the whole time. Come give me a hug." And he said he just like didn't trust this guy. He thought he was crazy. And he said all of a sudden, this guy's skin began to peel off. And he said that's when he could see this wasn't his father. This wasn't a man. This was this pale white, skinny creature with sharp teeth, sharp claws, and these bright yellow eyes. And he said, this thing said to him, "I said, come here now." And the voice had changed. So he said, next thing he knows, like he was able to get awareness again. And like he was aware of his situation where he was at. He turns and he just takes off running. He gets back to his cabin, he jumps in his truck, and he leaves his cabin and just abandons it. And he said after a couple of weeks, he didn't know what to do. So he went to this Native American man in town that everyone said was a medicine man. And he told him like what had happened and stuff. And he said, this Native American man said to him, "What you seen was the Wendigo, what my people call the Wendigo." And he said, "He has chosen you. And the reason he hasn't taken you yet is because he wants you to be as afraid as possible. Because to them, the more fear you have, the better you taste to them. And he will continue to follow you and, harass you until he finally gets you afraid enough that he will take you." So Jim said he decided to sell the cabin and he never went back there again. And he said still to this day, he can hear scratching sometimes at his window and he will see the shadowy figure in his room at night.
Have you ever heard of something called the not deer? Because that's what we're talking about tonight. The not deer is a cryptid, we'll call it, because I don't know what else to call it, that supposedly lives mainly in Appalachia. So anywhere where the Appalachian Mountains are, that's its home. It's a creature that looks like a deer from far away, but the closer you get to it, the more things that you start to see wrong with it. That can be multiple antlers, eyes in the front of its head instead of the side of its head, limbs that bend the wrong way, and sometimes deer that walk on hind legs. Now, there are deer that get up on their hind legs so that they can grab something off of a tree to eat. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about deer that walk on their hind legs like a human does. Most of the people who have encountered this are driving on a road at night through a remote area and they see a deer and they're like, "Oh, I need to slow down. There's a deer and it might jump out in front of me." And then the closer they get to it, the more things that they start to see are wrong with it. And everyone describes this feeling of dread, like they know something is wrong. The reason they're called not deer is because you know that's a deer, but it doesn't look like a deer. The best way I can describe it is if you are looking at something that you know has always looked like a certain thing, but there's just something off about it and you can't place it. Now, I haven't heard or seen any stories where this deer has done anything to harm people. It's just seeing something like that and you don't know what it is because it's not natural. So if you're ever out in the woods in the night, make sure you are keeping a lookout for the not deer.
She was sleeping in the woods alone with 2 dogs in Ohio, and immediately after setting up camp, one of the dogs stared at something for 15 minutes without reacting to her commands. And since the area isn't completely isolated, she didn't care and thought it was probably a hiker, but it turned out to be a calm moment foreshadowing what happened later that night, and she caught it all on camera. After putting her dogs inside the tent, she went out by herself in the direction Sumara was looking at to investigate.
There's a bad vibe. Something's weird right here. I don't feel right, man. I don't feel good at all. Okay. Hi, my name's Dee. I'm not here to hurt anybody. I just like to get nature at night. I'm losing it. I'm scared. I've got myself freaked. Hi.
After seeing the bat, she decided to come back to her camp and read scary stories to her viewers when she started hearing strange noises outside her tent.
And I was Stop. Hey! Woo! Ah!
After these noises, one of her dogs named Mia started shaking and nervously licking, which is a sign of distress. And sadly, it wasn't the end of horror experiences for them that night.
Get away from me. If you're near my tent, please leave. Stop, please. Hello?
She tried to see it through the mesh, but didn't notice anything, so she decided to leave. And while she was packing her stuff, she saw a man driving by who could have caused these.
Hey, Dad, look at Carly.
Get up here, Carly! What the hell was that? The hell was that? Get up here, Carly!
So if you needed further proof that Appalachians are innately morbid and goth, here's a little anecdote. When my grandma was finally dying after like 15 different scares, my mom called up her younger sister who had left the night before, and she just very matter-of-factly said, "Well, the old girl's gone." My aunt jokingly asked, "Well, who got to give the final lethal dose of morphine?" My mom tried to convey a sense of urgency when she said, "Well, you better get over here if you want to hug this body, 'cause she's getting stiff on us." As if Grandma is some Slim Jim left out in the sun too long. Love my family.
I was taking a hike in the Appalachian Mountains when I came across this.
Is that a bear? It's not moving. What is that? What is it? Oh. Yeah, this just really doesn't feel right. Oh my god, did I catch that on camera? No, I saw that. I know. Okay, I'm leaving. Oh shit. Oh my god.
This is Ali Che and her mom, and they were going back home late at night in the Appalachian Mountains when all of a sudden their car broke down in the middle of nowhere. Now, as you all know, the Appalachian Mountains is full of strange stories of cryptids and skinwalkers. This is what happened. Pay very close attention.
We are in the middle of nowhere. My door is locked. Oh my god. Above the door handle. You see it? Yeah. What are we gonna do? What now? I guess we'll have to walk to the store. Hey. What do we do? What's that? Did you hear that? Yeah, we better get back in the car. Yeah, we better. That was locked. Why is the car locked? No. What's the deal? I don't understand. You'll have to unlock it for me. Something weird has happened with this car. What's going on? I don't know. Let's see if it starts. It started.
Waiting for connection. Bluetooth connection success.
What was that? Ashley, I do not like this. Oh my god. Let's get out of here. Go. Does it run? Is it working? Yes, it is. It's working. Thank God.
A lot of people were leaving comments saying that Allie and her mom don't seem scared about the situation, but the fact is they've been living in the Appalachian Mountains for quite a while now, so I guess they're kind of used to this kind of situation. But the fact is, when this video was posted by Reddit user No Recognition 1998, a lot of people started freaking out about skinwalkers. Check this out. What is that? What is that?
So this is a clear example of a mimic. They're especially known in the Appalachian Mountains. And it's very common for mimics and skinwalkers to decide to go as people's pets because it's more believable. You can't really ask your pet certain questions. You can't be like, "You're not my husband. Tell me this then." You know what I mean? But their dog was already inside. The goal of the mimic is to be able to get inside the house, so do not let them in at all costs. And there is so much darkness and mystery surrounding the Appalachian Mountains and the Appalachian Trail, especially because you can tell here it's nighttime there. And locals will tell you, do not go there at night. It is not a game. It is a very serious thing. Even if you don't believe in the paranormal lore, there are a lot of really dangerous things out in those woods that you won't be able to see with the naked eye. Like where the ground is weak and can fall through. You can never be too careful out there. Come over here for longer freaky videos.
This security footage captured the homeowner's dog looking suspiciously out over their yard. The dog begins to bark as something spooks him. Suddenly, a strange set of disembodied legs runs across the background. The dog appears to be surprised by the sighting and heads inside. Looking more closely, the legs appear small and run at speed.
Fucking cocksucker. You ain't even from New York, bitch. Come on. I've been from fucking Queens, baby. You don't even know pizza, you fucking cocksucker. Come on, Tony, let's go. Tony, let's go! Go fuck yourself! Ah, okay, you fucking cocksucker.
So, last night, right in my neck of the woods, search and rescue was called out to look for what appeared to be a baby that somebody captured on their security camera. Now, they did what I believe any of us would do, I hope, and that is contact the authorities. So, they came out, did their investigation, and they came to the conclusion that it was just a glitch. Now, I don't know if I'm buying it, but I have gathered all that I could, and I'm going to show you, and just let me know what you think. All right, here is the original post. Here's a close-up of the baby. And here is the official report. Some more information with the timestamps. And right here you can tell 1 minute apart there's a baby and then poof, no baby. As if this isn't spooky enough, it gets even weirder. Her daughter took this picture and it looks just like the baby. Whoa.
the question is, how do the things in the woods in the Appalachian Mountains know your name when they call you? And this person says they find it hard to believe because how would they know your name? And I totally get that. So let's take a second and address what a lot of people think. So it is widely believed that you are not just picked by these things. Sometimes it can be, but you're usually hunted for a long time by these creatures. And by hunting, I mean stalking. It follows you, it gets to know you, and it's gonna hear people say your name. A lot of people don't like for their actual name to be said outside near the woods, just in case something is listening, so it doesn't have that leverage over you. But if it hasn't been stalking you and it doesn't know your name, it'll use other tactics. It'll cry like a baby or a woman. It'll scream for help. It'll scream, hey. It'll do things like that to still get your attention, but it won't say your name. So if it knows your name, you're hearing your name being called, that means it has listened, it has watched, it has been watching you for a while, and it's ready for you. I hope that cleared that up.
You have to understand that when you go into the Appalachian Mountains, you are entering into another realm. And there is a set of unspoken rules that you must follow. Rule number 1, if you hear something calling your name, right, you didn't. There is nothing there. And you should not respond. Do not say hello. Do not say, who is it? Just run away. Because something is trying to gain permission. And by you acknowledging it, you are allowing it to come after you. If you hear screams in the mountains, right? You didn't. And do not go towards the direction of the screams to try and help. Because once again, something is trying to lure you. If you see people, you don't. If you hear crying, you're not hearing it. Do not respond to this at all because you are giving permission to whatever is in those woods to come after you. Now, if you are to go camping in the Appalachian Mountains, right? You have to remember, at night, you must keep a fire going at all times. And it's not for warmth, it's not for cooking, it's to keep you safe. And if you are going to camp in a tent, make sure when you go into that tent, it is sealed up. There are no holes, there are no cracks. And if you hear any kind of screaming, yelling, or anyone calling your name, do not respond. Do not go to sleep. And if something wakes you up, stay alert, and once again, do not respond. Now, it's very important when you are walking through the Appalachian Mountains, if you come across a deer carcass, do not touch it, do not stare at it, walk away, ignore it, because this is something, once again, trying to lure you into the woods. Now, if it comes to the point that something is chasing you and it gets you and there is no escape, fight as hard as you can, whether it's a person, an animal. If it's something else though, and you know what I'm talking about, well, you just let it get you, right? Because at that point, there's nothing you can do. And there's an old saying, you go into the Appalachian Mountains with 2 bullets, right? You fire the first one at something that isn't a person, that isn't an animal. And if it doesn't run away, you know what to do with the second one.
Being born and raised in the Appalachian Mountains, I've experienced a lot of unexplainable things. And I'm not the only one. Today I'm going to be sharing a story with you that a follower sent to my email. I moved to Pennsylvania right after turning 15. Before that, I lived on the West Coast, so I had no knowledge of what happened in the Appalachian Mountains. Nothing about those rules like closing your curtains at night or not responding to your name being called when nobody's around. In our house, we had a crawl space on the 2nd floor. I had claimed the bedroom with the door to the crawl space. And once summer started next year, I started hearing scratching coming from inside of the crawl space. I thought it was a squirrel, but my dad couldn't find anything inside. The scratching continued, but I ignored it. At some point, I thought I could hear my name being called from behind the door. Now, my parents were very religious. I was taught that if I heard my name being called, it was the Holy Ghost trying to tell me something or trying to comfort me. I said a silent prayer to myself when I heard my name being called in that house. I think I had really just got lucky, and I had moved out of that bedroom and into a different bedroom without the crawl space after my sister had left for college and I got to move into her room. I had another experience in that house soon after I turned 18. I was packing up my bags, getting ready to move away from college, and I had a lot of anxiety because of that. Something that helped me was getting fresh air. It was already nighttime, but I stepped out on the back porch to get some fresh air. The moon was really bright that night, and I could see most of the yard very well. It was a large yard, roughly 6 acres, with a creek and a wooded area to one side, a hill and a wooded area on the opposite side of the creek, and behind a small pond in the back of the yard was the road. I knew this area had animals that were out and about, especially late at night, so I took a look around to see if I could spot a fox or a deer. At the road, I could see what looked like 2 glowing eyes attached to some figure. It looked like a deer, but it was staring at me, and the porch light was on, so it was very clearly lit. I thought it was kind of cool until it started getting closer. The yard was massive, and there was a rough 3 to 4 acres of land between the road and the house. This thing was moving fast and moving very intently. It got over the guardrail and was making a straight line towards me. Even with the moonlight, I couldn't really make out what it was, but at that moment, I thought it was like a wolf or something. I ran inside, locked the doors, turned out the light, and ran into my bedroom. I spent the rest of the night underneath my blankets and muttering prayers to myself. In the morning, I told my dad about the animal I had saw outside last night, and he had only found some scratches on the wood on the porch.
So it turns out the only place that is scarier than the Rocky Mountains is the Appalachian Mountains. And have you heard of something called Dogman? Well, there is a creature that was just captured on image called the Dogman. And of course, this was in North Carolina, which is a part of the Appalachian Mountains. Yeah, the Appalachian Mountains, where they tell you don't go out after fucking dark. Now, apparently this is one of the cryptids that is said to live in the Appalachian Mountains that is similar to the Appalachian Bigfoot. And I found interesting information in this story about one of these cryptoids on Reddit. Because Dogman is such a phenomena in the Appalachian Mountains around North Carolina and has even been seen in Michigan that people are afraid to go looking for them on the trails. Now I'm going to show you the picture of Dogman, but this is one of the stories from Reddit that I was reading that literally scares the shit out of me. To summarize, this man basically went on the trail with his dog where his golden retriever started to growl. He was in these Appalachian Mountains and they were in the dark woods. He said that he could hear trees shaking and branches falling. He said he had never been this scared in his life. Immediately went back in the house to where the man had his pew-pew. Once back in the house, he said it was basically like he was surrounded by loud mumbling, that it never stopped. Every time he would go to check, it would go dead silent. He said he didn't sleep a wink. He said he was used to the spooky things that his grandparents would tell him about, but this was not normal spooky. And he said he thought it was an animal, but it didn't feel like it because of the mumbling. Now, this is alleged footage of what they consider to be Dogman. There are some very extensive videos that I could send to you, but what the fuck is this? Now, one reason I wouldn't say that this is a bear is clearly because of the hind legs. And it couldn't be Bigfoot because Bigfoot is quite large, as we all know. This is a picture of the Dogman cryptoid that was captured in the Appalachian Mountains on the trails. These sightings are getting more and more regular, and they're honestly freaking me the fuck out.
Rules of the Appalachia. That shit's horrifying. A lot of people do hike the Appalachian Trail, and one of the main things they all know not to do is to hike from dusk to dawn. Don't go into the mountains after dark. There's a marked trail, stay on it. Do not veer off any trail or path. Everything is marked for a reason.
That's a blaze. 2 inches by 6 inches. It's what we follow. They're everywhere. They may be on a bridge, they may be on a tree. They're usually always on trees, but sometimes they're on the ground, on a rock, on a building, on a light post. That's what we follow. This morning, I didn't follow it. I wasn't paying attention.
There's numerous stories where people said they hear a woman or a baby in distress. And a really common belief is that if you hear something calling you right in your vicinity, it's actually really far away. But if you hear something calling you from far away, there's a good chance it's actually standing right next to you. It's not just screams that's a big deal. Whistling seems to be a big deal also. If you hear whistling, you didn't hear whistling. You're not even supposed to whistle. Tap your friend on their shoulder, but don't use their real name. Using real names just gives whatever it is a closer relationship with whoever's name it learns. Don't ever stare off into the forest. You could be looking at one thing in the forest, but there could be 100 things looking back at you. Anything you hear or see is not your business. Keep doing what you were doing and don't pay any attention to it. Some of the most common sightings in these areas are Bigfoot, skinwalkers, cryptids, and there's even been UFO sightings. Not to forget that this whole area is loaded with caverns and caves too. So it's not just the things that are above the ground that you have to worry about. There's even more stuff underground.
Y'all wanted an Appalachian Mountain series, so let's get started. If it is nighttime or you are alone, you should probably skip this video. All right, let's set the mood. Are you ready? So to start off this series, we're gonna be talking about two of the most creepiest things I've ever heard about the Appalachian Mountains. That is going to be mimics and not deer. I saw this creator talk about this story and I had to tell you guys. Her name is HidingSomething. I have to find it and I'm gonna put it in the comments just so she can get credit. So basically one of her followers was talking about how they lived in Kentucky, right? And one day they were playing with their other cousins. It was 7 of them total and they got bored and one of the cousins said, let's go play in the woods. Y'all already know that you should never go into the woods at night in the Appalachian Mountains because really scary things go down in the woods at night over there, okay? So one of the cousins is named Jeremiah. They decided to play hide and seek and he said he wanted to be the seeker first. So he runs off into the woods and everybody goes and hides. Now mind y'all, there's 6 of them besides Jeremiah. 3 of them go one way and 3 of them go the other way. They should have already known y'all should never split up. Hello, have you watched Scooby-Doo? Even Shaggy and Scooby wouldn't be in them woods. Anyway, I digress. So while the first 3 are hiding, they all of a sudden hear this screech from Jeremiah deep in the woods. They're terrified, shook. And right as one of the cousins decides they're gonna go into the woods to go look for him, they feel something grabbing their ankle from the ground. Turns out it's Jeremiah. And he's looking at them with like terror in his eyes. And he's like, I heard that too, but it wasn't me. So clearly y'all, we're dealing with a mimic. A mimic is basically a creature that takes the form of the person that you know and tries to lure you into the woods with either their voice, like crying or asking for help. And in this case, Jeremiah was screaming. Jeremiah in the woods was screaming, asking for help, but that wasn't him. Then the other 3, they also hear Jeremiah screaming from another part of the woods and they actually go in to investigate. And do y'all want to know what they see? They see a not deer. Basically, well, first of all, they see this huge dark silhouette rushing towards them. Y'all just imagine it's nighttime, right? And all you hear is low-key, I'm freaking myself out. Okay, so they hear that, they're booking it, bro. They run away and they end up meeting back up with the cousins. So now it's all the cousins back together again. And what they see is a not deer. Now this is when they see the not deer. And a not deer is basically a deer that presents itself as that animal, but you find out at the closer you get to the deer that it's not actually a deer. It's a demon. So basically the deer is like turned around but facing them like this, and then it stands up on its hind legs and like skin starts falling from it. Once they see that, y'all, they are booking it out of the woods back home. They tell their parents about it. The parents are like, y'all shouldn't even been in those woods in the first place. Y'all know the rules of the Appalachian Mountains. If y'all want another video on the rules of the mountains, let me know because that's creepy too. Overall, when I heard this story, I was like, see, this is why you're never gonna catch me there, because I fully believe that those are literally demons / familiar spirits that are trying to get you. Me personally, I feel like the mimics are creepier than not deer. Like imagine being in the woods and you hear knocking on the door like, hey baby, it's mom, open the door. And then you get a call and your mom is like, oh honey, I'm running late. I'm not gonna be there for another 15-20 minutes. And you keep hearing, honey, open the door, it's mom. See, that is the shenanigans of a mimic. And I'm so good. I'm okay. Thank you. Y'all, it's tea, okay? It's tea. As always, guys, make sure you like and follow and comment down below how many times you pooped yourself during this video. Bye.
girl DM'd me and said she wanted to share her story about growing up in the Appalachian foothills in Kentucky and why you should never whistle at night. I'll be honest, I don't know much about Appalachian lore as I didn't grow up in Kentucky, but I asked my husband, whose family is from Kentucky. I said, were you ever told not to whistle at night? And he said, I was taught never to whistle at all. This is Jane's story. That is her real name, but she didn't want to be tagged. Jane started her email by saying that where she grew up in Kentucky, stories weren't just stories. They were lessons and they were warnings passed down from generation to generation. Jane grew up in a small 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house with her mother and her grandmother. Their closest neighbor was 3 miles away. The house had been in their family for generations. Her great-grandfather had built it himself. Jane's mother worked most days, so she was often left alone with her grandmother. Growing up, Jane was allowed to go play and explore the woods, often unsupervised. Generally, her grandmother would be on the front porch in a rocking chair, smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee, and staying within close range. Jane's grandmother was a staunch believer in the idea that kids should be kids and often encouraged her to go and play. Jane says she learned a lot about nature living there. She would always find tadpoles, bring them home and watch them turn into frogs. She would find bugs, build them small habitats. She would watch the baby deer grow up every spring and summer. But Jane's grandmother had 2 rules, and the first was that Jane had to be in the house by dusk, and the second was that Jane could not whistle at night, even if she was in the house. When Jane asked why she wasn't allowed to whistle at night, her grandmother only ever said, "It calls them to you," and refused to elaborate. So Jane grew up with the idea that there were monsters or people in the woods that would come if you whistled. So Jane grows up, she goes off to college. Her mother had since fell in love with and married a man who lived in the suburbs of Louisville. Only her grandmother is left living in this house. And Jane doesn't go back very often. There's not a lot for her there. And at this point in her life, she views the place where she grew up just as a small mountain town where a lot of old people live who still believe in magic and folklore. But Jane's modern. She's a millennial. She has a smartphone. She watches The Bachelorette. The world that she lives in is bigger and more vibrant than the dusty old stories that her grandmother clung to. But obviously her grandmother's lessons are ingrained in her. She was raised that way. So anytime she hears somebody whistle, especially after dark, she kind of thinks to herself, you're not supposed to do that. But of course she never says anything. She doesn't want to be weird. When she's a junior in college, she's going back to her grandmother's house for Christmas. Her mother and her mother's new husband are also going to be there. She drives a day early to go stay with her grandmother. Her grandmother is older, she's getting sick, and Jane doesn't know how much time she's going to have left with her. Before she gets to the house, she stops at the general store in the last town to get a Red Bull and some snacks before taking the long twisty road to her grandmother's house. She pulls up the long driveway, parks her car, and as she gets out, for some reason she's just struck with the urge to whistle. She says she doesn't know what it was, something about being there just gave her the urge. The sun was about set, but it wasn't completely dark, and she lets out this long, high-pitched whistle. She says she stopped and looked around because she half expected something to happen, but nothing did. All she heard was the wind through the trees. So she goes up, knocks on the door, and her grandmother answers. Her grandmother welcomes her in, asks her if she wants some tea, and the two go out to the front porch where they had spent so much time when Jane was growing up. They're sitting there for about an hour, and there's a break in conversation when Jane notices something is off. She says there was no wind, the air was completely still. Keep in mind, it's December, but it's a relatively warm night in December. All the trees are barren, no leaves, nothing moving, complete stillness. And then they hear a whistle in the woods. And it's Jane's whistle. The same long, high-pitched whistle that Jane had whistled earlier. And her grandmother grabs a chair, her knuckles going white, and she stands up and she says, "Did you whistle at night?" And Jane starts stammering because this actually scares her. And she's like, "Well, I did when I got here, but it wasn't quite dark, and I didn't think anything was going to happen." Grandmother's like, "We have to go inside right now." So the two go inside where there's a fire going, and they hear the whistle again, but it's closer this time. Her grandmother's sitting in the chair close to the fire, and she's like, "Why did you do that? I told you never to whistle at night." And Jane still doesn't entirely know what's going on, so she just says, "Well, who is it? Who's whistling?" And her grandmother just says, "We don't know, but you called them and now they're here." Her grandmother reassures her that they're going to be safe as long as they stay inside when there's a pounding at the door. The pounding at the door startled Jane, so she jumps up, and then she realizes that it's probably just her mother and her husband. So she goes over to answer it, and her grandmother just looks at her and she says, "What are you doing?" And Jane says, "Is Mom coming early?" And her grandmother says, "No." She tells her to come sit back down, so she does, and then it's gone. Jane says she has absolutely no explanation. She does not know what it was, but thinking about the experience still terrifies her. And her grandmother has sadly since passed away, and Jane inherited the house, but she says she still has not gone back there. She doesn't know if she ever will, and she's not sure what she's going to do with the house. If you're from the foothills of Kentucky or the Appalachia area in general, please comment and let Jane know what you think she experienced. She will be seeing these comments. And keep sending me your spooky, scary stories. You can DM them to me on my profile page, or my email is also in my bio. I will keep adding those stories to this playlist. Do good, stay bad.
There is something dark in the Appalachian Mountains. There's actually like a set of rules that the locals set up that you have to follow if you go hiking in there. The first rule is to never be in the woods from dusk till dawn. And these rules are like very strictly enforced by the locals. Like, it's no joke. The second rule is to never leave the marked trail because it is marked off for a reason. So many people get lost or go missing in the Appalachian Mountains. People have seen weird things. There's so much folklore. And the third rule is if you hear voices close to you, they're far away. But if the voices are far away, then they're near. And if the voices are saying your name, do not answer them. And I'm showing you all of these like real photos people have actually taken. The fourth rule is do not whistle or sing in the woods. And the fifth rule is never look too hard in the trees because you might not like what you see. And there are so many people in the area that will like talk about this online. They'll be like, do not mess around. Do not stray from the path. This is not a joke. This is not something you should mess with. Like, there is some dark force in that woods. There's some weird energy. And these people are like, we don't say that to scare you. This is real. This is real stuff. And we want you to stay safe. And that's why we talk about it so much. And they said there's like things and spirits in the woods that you don't want to interact with. And I've also heard people talk about how they've been on the trail and there are really sketchy people on that trail and that you should never go there alone. Like, this mountain range is older than the dinosaurs. Let me know if you want more information and come over here for more content. It really helps when you interact.
Appalachian skinwalker is much different than the Navajo skinwalker. Okay, the first difference is that a Navajo skinwalker, right, is conjured up by a medicine man, whereas an Appalachian skinwalker is conjured up by a witch in the Appalachia who uses black magic. The other big difference between the Appalachian skinwalker versus the native skinwalker is that the Appalachian skinwalker tends to take the form of objects, and a lot of time almost just comes as an invisible force that calls out to people or follows them, or for instance, the Bell Witch, right? It wasn't a witch going after that family. It was a skinwalker that was conjured up to harm and, terrify that family. So I got a story for you. This is a true story now, and I'm going to show you a picture as well. So there's a man named Donald. Donald was an avid hunter and trapper. He lived near the North Carolina-Tennessee border up in the Appalachian Mountains. And one day, he's out hunting, and he's in the middle of the woods, and he set up, in this deer stand. And he'd been out there all day, and he's, had been hunting for the whole week, so he was getting tired. He falls asleep and dozes off. Well, when he awakes, it's now nighttime and it's gotten dark. And as he's adjusting some things in his tree stand, all of a sudden, whoosh, he hears this loud thing move over the top of him through the trees, like it's some kind of large bird or something. And he thinks it's odd because, he hasn't seen, birds that big in that area. But then once again, whoosh, right? This big thing just passes over the top of him through the trees, and it's shaking all the branches. And then again, a third time. So, he gets down off his tree stand and is like, okay, it's time to head back to camp. As he starts, walking this trail back to camp, all of a sudden he hears something, say, Donald, Donald, hey, Donald, come play, and this voice just keeps calling to him. And he, it's like freaking out. He's terrified. So he takes off running, and he's running as fast as he can. And all of a sudden, boom, he trips and he rolls. And he realizes he just tripped over this root that is sticking out of the ground. And when he looks up, he notices this big, eerie looking tree. And, you know, it has no leaves on it, but it has branches that almost look like hands, and it looks like it has a face. And this tree starts staring at him and opens its eyes, and he can see that this tree has taken some kind of physical, like humanly form, and it starts reaching its branches down, and it grabs Donald and it picks him up and is shaking him and whipping him with the other branches. Well, Donald still manages to hold on to his rifle, and he just starts firing at the tree. And he manages to hit one of the branches that was holding his leg, and it basically breaks and he falls to the ground. So he runs back to his cabin and he gets inside and he locks all the doors. And all night long he can hear the tree lashing at the house trying to get in. And the next morning, all is calm. But he notices outside, there's the tree. It is moved. It's next to the cabin. And he manages to take some pictures which actually show the face in the tree. And this is the picture that Donald took.
So you know how they're constantly telling you on TikTok to not look in the trees? Well, this is one of the reasons why. But before I tell you, hi, my name is Ashley and I talk about crime, creepy, and unbelievable stories. So if you're into that, check out my TikTok and YouTube. The links are in my bio. So Appalachia is known for having dozens of cryptids and even more creepy stories about what happens out in the woods. It takes up quite a large portion of the United States and even crosses into Canada. One of the reasons they're telling you to not look into trees is because of these guys. They're called devil monkeys. Of course, there's no actual proof, but there are dozens and dozens of stories. They're described to look very much like a primate, but they're also said to have a very unusual snout. It almost resembles something like a dog. They're also said to stand somewhere between 5 and 8 feet tall, and they switch from walking on all fours to jumping on 2 feet. And the worst of all is that they're said to be extremely aggressive. The reason you don't want to look into the trees is because that's where they hide. They're said to camouflage, but according to locals, you can see the trees moving on their own, almost as if there were some sort of monkey swinging on them. And if these devil monkeys spot you looking at the trees and they realize that you've spotted them, that's when you're in trouble. So if you just happen to be looking in the trees and you notice something odd, don't run, just walk away.
I have kids in the car, you better go. I have kids in the car, you better go.
What?
Who is that? Who is that?
They're calling me a damn fucking kid!
I got you on video. You better get back.
Jeff's after you.
Jeff's right there, he ain't doing shit.
You're the one to say something about my damn son! And I got it all over recorder. Get the fuck!
Rolls Royce umbrellas when I'm in the rain. I just mind my Okay, all jokes aside, Appalachia really does have the scariest shit. Like, did you know there's a plot of land in Appalachia that is so haunted? They have a plaque commemorating getting rid of the demon. And I only know about it because I did so much research for this week's episode, but I literally can't sleep now. So this ill-proportioned man is Adam Livingston. In the 1700s, he was tormented by a poltergeist in his home after he buried a stranger in an unmarked grave on his property. I mean, what did you think was going to happen? Legend has it that one night in West Virginia, a traveling stranger came to Adam's place and told him that he was dying. He asked for a priest to be fetched for his last rites, but Adam wouldn't go get one. AKA, his wife was like, please don't leave me alone with this man. So the stranger died, but Adam didn't even know his name, so he just buried him in an unmarked grave in the back of his yard and got back to work. And that's when it just went full conjuring in his home. He came outside to see that his chickens had randomly been beheaded. Adam said at night it sounded like there was a horse upstairs, like that's how loud the stomping was. But one night Adam has a dream, and in the dream he thinks he sees the man that can help him. And the haunting stopped after he went and got this man, who ended up being a Catholic priest like the stranger wanted. They blessed the grave, and if you visit you can see where they marked his burial site. For more Appalachian horror, check out this week's episode.
Let's talk about this creepy video that's going absolutely viral on TikTok right now. The Appalachian Mountains video. So many of you guys were sending me the link to this video, and I made the mistake of watching it at night. So let's break it down. The video was posted on March 19th by user Dustin Lee Frazier, and it's already at 17.6 million views and 1.9 million likes. And everybody in the comments is terrified. And in the video, Justin describes that they were Snapchatting their friend as they were at work alone in the Appalachian Mountains. But they said that when they replayed their Snapchat video, they found something terrifying. Like, let me just show you a little clip of it and then we're gonna break it down, okay? Here it is.
I felt bad. Honestly, it's less like a little bit. I felt bad. And I don't know. I just, like, I feel like I need to go to a doctor, but like I'm constantly just like nauseous. And I don't really know why. Like, I have tried to like take medicine for it and stuff, but I don't know, it doesn't seem like it really does anything. And then whenever I go and I'm just like laying down and stuff, like I can sleep, and whenever I sleep, it's like I don't like get rest, you know what I mean?
So if you didn't catch it, it's this face right here. But aside from that terrifying face, people also mentioned that they heard whispering. People believe that it's a SW. Reading the comments right now, and someone said, pretty sure it's attached to you, like no joke. Listen, Dustin, I don't know if you're playing a prank on us, but this isn't funny, okay? I don't want to believe that there can be beings like that. But what do you guys think? Is this real? Is this fake? Let me know. Let me know.
Shout out to all of those TikTok videos that talk about if you're walking in the woods in Appalachia and you hear something or you see something, no you didn't, because I think that just saved my life last night. Story time. Excuse the garage. I'm at my parents' place, and this is the only place my dog is allowed, who plays a crucial role in this story, by the way. He's a very, very good boy, and last night proved it. So, my parents don't live in Appalachia, but they do live in an area that's a little more secluded. It's still a suburb, but it's pressed up against these hills with lots of untouched wilderness, and coyotes are running through there all the time. It's just a little bit more rural. So I'm sitting in their backyard, which has this tall fence all the way around it, and the wilderness comes right up to that fence. I'm sitting there around the campfire. My dog is laying beside me. I got my laptop open and I'm writing my little stories. Suddenly, my dog lifts his head, stares straight ahead at the fire, doesn't even like look around at the yard, stares straight ahead at the fire and starts to growl. All dog owners know that your dog has different types of barks and growls. This was his warning growl. This is the growl he does when there is danger coming and he's telling it to back away. So immediately I'm like, buddy, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? And then I hear a voice at the fence line. And it's not just any voice. It's the voice of a little girl. And it sounds like a creepy doll from a horror movie. It's got that kind of like mechanical quality to it. And it's kind of like muffled and garbled. I'm still getting the heebie-jeebies. And all it does is go, hello? Just like that. Just like that. Hi, just same tone and everything. Now, mind you, it's midnight. There are not going to be any little girls wandering the woods at midnight. So immediately, I was like, well, this is either someone who's gonna me, or it's something else. And what made me think it was something else was the fact that the voice said again, "Hello?" Only this time it had moved, and it had gotten closer, and I'd heard no footsteps. It was just floating closer. And then, mind you, my dog is still growling this entire time. For the next 5 minutes, that voice is just circling the fence line, going, "Hello? Hi? Hello? Hey?" Like, just like that creepy doll voice floating around the fence line. And then suddenly my dog stopped growling, and he put his head down and he went back to sleep, and the voice stopped. And I thought, okay, cool, that was weird. And then all of a sudden he lifted his head back up again and started growling. And then the sound of a ticking clock came from the bush directly across from me. Again, heard no footsteps, heard no rustling. Just a ticking clock started in the middle of the night, in the middle of the woods. So don't know what that was. But if anyone wants to hop in the comments and let me know, that'd be great. Because I can't wait to go home today. And I don't see myself coming back here anytime soon.
And a big shout out to my protector. Yes, big scary boy.